I mean, I literally just stopped recording the game recap, and then I see that the Mariners have made a trade. They have acquired Mike Baumann from the Baltimore Orioles in exchange for catching prospect Blake Hunt. Let's take a look at Baumann's numbers. 17 appearances so far in 2024, a 3.44 ERA, 18 and a third innings over those 17 appearances, 16 strikeouts with a 1.47 whip. I like this trade a lot, in part because Blake Hunt is a nice backstop, and we'll talk about him in the second half of the video, but he's not somebody that the Seattle Mariners necessarily are going to miss. You know, he's not Big Dumper. He's not Harry Ford. Now, a lot of talk about Harry Ford being a potential trade target, so something to keep in mind, but I'd rather have Baumann. I would certainly rather have Baumann, especially watching how this bullpen has pitched. Like, I just watched Austin Voth pitch in a fairly high leverage situation. I've watched Cody Bolton pitch in high leverage situations. I've watched Kirby Snead pitch in a relatively high leverage situation. And to say that I will take Baumann over those guys is quite the understatement. This is a guy who was drafted in the third round out of Jacksonville. It's worth pointing out one of my better writing buddies is named Mike Baumann. He writes for Fangraphs now. He was with The Ringer. He was with Grantland. He's been a lot of places. He's a really fun guy, but I hate him because that's just how it goes. You know, I hate him. But now maybe he's a Mariner fan. Maybe we can convert him to being a Seattle Mariner fan. Let's take a look at the Savant page for Baumann. So far, his expected ERA is 3.28. That's in the 71st percentile. Expected batting average of 217. It's in the 80th percentile. Throws 96 miles per hour on average with his four-seam fastball, and he throws it a lot. So that's nice to see. 96.2 miles per hour is in the 85th percentile. Avoids barrels a lot. 3.6% rate is excellent, outstanding in the 90th percentile. He's not a guy who gets a lot of strikeouts, but you take a look at the whiff percentage, and they don't really correlate. Whiff percentage of 25.3, K percentage of 19.5, which tells you that there's probably some bad luck, like getting the swings and misses on strike one, strike two, and not necessarily on strike three. But you also take a look at here that, you know, the other numbers suggest that he's a difficult guy to make hard contact against for the most part. And the concern I think I have here is that he's not a guy who gets hitters to swing outside of the zone very often. 19% in the chase rate, 19th percentile for chase rate, the actual chase rate of 24.5. So just 1 out of 4 times, really, you're getting hitters to swing at pitches outside of the zone. That's not abhorrent, but it's not very good either. He does walk people. Walk rate of 11% is in the bottom 21st percentile. So this is not a guy who has elite command. It's one of the reasons why he went from being a starting pitching prospect to being a relief guy. I think he's made that jump pretty well. Let's look at the pitch mix here. Like I said, he does use that 96 mile per hour fastball a lot. He throws it 43% of the time. He mixes his curveball and slider quite a bit. 28% for the curve, 23% for the slider. The slider is a hard slider, 92 miles per hour. I can still remember when 92 miles per hour was an above average fastball, which is mostly about me being old, but I digress. I would guess the Mariners want him to rely on that pitch. Let's take a look at what he's done with those pitches so far this year while I hit pause, because I didn't even think about it. That's how off the cuff this video. So it's interesting to see him use that fastball so much, because his fastball has pretty clearly been his least effective pitch thus far in 2024. 35 plate appearances against it. Hitters hitting 333 with a slugging percentage of 633 and a weighted on base average of 476. That's really bad. Also a little bit unlucky, but 53.8% hard hit rate. Not that lucky. Expected batting average of 271 and 466 expected slugging. Bad numbers, but below what what the actual results are. The curve and slider have been very effective for him. The curve, expected batting average of 184, expected slugging of 211, expected weighted on base average of 260, and a hard hit rate of only 25%. He's getting 29.7% of hitters to swing and miss at that pitch. The slider, even better. The overall numbers for the slider are outstanding, as are the expected stats. 176, 235, .208, a whiff rate of 31.4%, a put away rate of 28.6%. The expected stats on there are 171, 262, and a 213 expected weighted on base average, and a hard hit rate of only 20%. I think the Mariners are going to ask this guy to be reliant on those secondary offerings, as they should. As they should. This is not going to be a Penn Murphy situation where it's only sweepers, but you're going to see that hard slider from Baumann, I think, a lot. Let's take a look at some of the splits real quick. So it may not surprise you based on those numbers that I just gave you that lefties are having a much better time against him than right-handers. Against lefties, 30 plate appearances, they're hitting 292, 433, 417. 6 strikeouts in those in those 30 plate appearances in 24 at-bats. Against right-handers, they're only hitting 229, 289, 375. That's a 664 OPS, 10 strikeouts and 48 at-bats. That has allowed 2 homers, hasn't allowed a homer against a lefty yet, but he's given up 3 doubles. Only 1 stolen base allowed. It's nice to see for a team that is not good at holding runners. Got off to a little bit of a shaky start, 5.06 ERA in April, March. In May so far this year, a 1.17 ERA, 7 2/3 innings. Now, only 3 strikeouts in those 7 2/3 innings, so a little bit of luck, but it's nice to see the results being better. I don't think that there is any like crazy home road split here. We might as well look since we're here. Much better at home. 2.57 ERA, 9 strikeouts and 14 1/3 innings. Away, it's a 6.23 ERA. The issue has been walks there. 5 walks, 7 strikeouts. Too small a sample to be too crazy about. Maybe taking advantage of what we should be calling Baltimore, but we're not. For whatever reason, we're just not. Long story short, I like this pickup for the Mariners a lot. Is he Gregory Santos or Matt Brash? No, he is not. But I think he absolutely has the stuff to be a successful middle reliever and somebody I'm trusting a whole heck of a lot more than I am trusting the names that I talked about earlier in the video. Bolton. I may trust Baumann more than I trust Ryan Stanek. I'll be curious to see just how many high leverage situations they give Baumann. And you're giving up a pretty good prospect in Blake Hunt. Let's talk about Blake Hunt real quick before we end this thing. So Blake Hunt was acquired by the Mariners from the Rays in an offseason deal, and he has enjoyed the taste of Tacoma so far. 23 games, hitting 293, 372, 533, 4 homers over 23 games. This was a guy who was drafted with basically a first-round pick. No, 69th overall. That's right. I always get him confused with a different catcher that the Padres had taken. I'm just an old man. I'm an old man, but 2017, he was the 69th pick. Very good defensive player. We're talking about a 60 grade defensive backstop with a 60 grade arm, and he's starting to tap into his power. 6'4", 215, which is certainly the size to be a solid power hitter. Probably 55 is what he's maxing out at, but that can certainly work, especially if you're playing quality defense. Some question marks about the hit tool, to be sure. This is a guy who has never come close to this 293 mark before. Before this, career high was 271 when he was with Tri-Cities. So there's been a long history of him not hitting for average. There is swing and miss in his game, but only 10 strikeouts so far in 23 games. That's not bad. It's pretty clear he's made some adjustments. It's a good trade for Baltimore. They have arms better than Baumann, in my humble estimation. And while he's not the catcher of the future because they've got that one guy, he can be a solid part of them. And also a guy that they could use to move later on. So I think Baltimore does pretty well in this trade. But I like this for the Mariners. You had to address the bullpen. Had to. And it's also a move that, like, if Baumann isn't ready to be one of those guys, those 7th, 8th inning guys, you're making this move early enough that you can go get another guy if you need a replacement. And you did. To say you didn't destroy the farm system is an understatement. There's lots of players that you can move here that can help you. So I like this trade for both teams. I'm curious what you guys think. Please hit like and subscribe. Appreciate the support. And Michael Baumann, welcome to Seattle, my friend.